Sometimes, the moment you finish writing a story, you know that you have struck gold. You feel that you have created something grand, something important, something of note. This here story is not such a story. Point of fact, I hate this one. I dislike this story so much that I don't even remember writing it. Nevertheless, it's 8,000 words, so we might as well explore it. This one goes by the name of Spook, and let me tell you a story. Laura was pregnant. She wanted to go to the bathroom. Two couples remained, and their beverages were certain to be cold already. The day had been slow, and now she had to wait for the ill-timed diners to finish with their disgusting, ridiculous, stereotypical socio-cultural rites. Her bladder twinged again. She didn't feel like enjoying the setting sun's orange tones that came through the two enormous windows of the establishment's facade. The only thing she wanted, what she really desired, was that those four people left so she could close the coffee shop. Holding it had turned her face red. She wanted to go to the bathroom in peace and quiet, free from the owner responsibilities of her little commerce. She should have already closed, even before Raoul phoned her to let her know he couldn't arrive in time to help her, but she needed the money. She wanted the money. Laura frowned, clenched her fists. She couldn't help but wince. Maybe the diners would attribute it to her being pregnant if they were listening. Truthfully, they weren't paying attention to her, but she kept categorizing and judging them in an effort to cheer herself up. Maybe it was her who didn't care what people thought of her demeanor. The coffee and desserts were good, so people could keep on buying from her. Those whose susceptibilities were hurt had a dozen mediocre places to choose a replacement from. Laura shook her head. She had to relax, something difficult to achieve amidst the pain and discomfort. It took her a mere second to think again. She didn't want to relax. She didn't feel like accommodating the taste or needs of other people. After years of hard work, didn't she deserve a restful afternoon to cope with the weight that was growing within her? Didn't she deserve a little support? She cursed Raoul under her breath and kept absent-mindedly cleaning a table near to the counter. You don't own a business. The business owns you. Laura was interrupted in her contemplation of her species rituals, how couples prefer to go out at night to, under the cover of darkness, love each other, when she heard the bell that hung above the door. Most times she liked the sound. It reminded her of the register's jingle. But now she was tired and didn't want to tend to more customers. She felt differently when she saw who had just entered. Roberta Jane Stewart was missing an eye. She didn't wear a patch, and Laura could only think that it was just so people felt uncomfortable around her. The baby jumped in her womb, as if it had also perceived the surprise visit of the chill-causing woman. Laura steeled herself and rationalized. No problem, she thought. Roberta usually orders to go, but maybe she wouldn't now. She was with a man. She approached them with a forced smile, one she couldn't keep when she noticed Roberta's handcuffs. Her throat shut. She couldn't gulp, let alone speak. "Table for two," said the man. His smile seemed as insincere as hers. He wore a black suit and a neat tie of the same color. Laura didn't think she reacted. "We are about to close," she said, her eyes fixed on the cuffs. She didn't care if she was considered indiscreet. "A coffee shop that closes at 6 in the afternoon? It's almost 7. The man laughed in an unfriendly manner. He was not someone to be trifled with. "You are right, but the question remains, isn't it too early to close a coffee shop?" "When you run your business, you can open and close whenever you want," said Laura firmly. Her survival instinct was all over the place. She even defiantly looked the man in the eye. Without losing his cold smile, he said, "There's still people inside. Are you throwing them out too?" "That won't be necessary. They are about to leave." The man looked at the couples. One was beside the entrance, next to one of the windows, and the other was at one of the place's innermost tables, past the counter. "They don't seem to be in a hurry. Please serve us, and I assure you we'll leave before any of them." Laura sighed. She gestured them to follow her. She took them to the table she had been cleaning. She offered them the menu. The man shook his head. He didn't need it. "Two strawberry milkshakes," he said. "I know they're not as easy to prepare as 2 cups of black coffee, but what can I say?" He raised one of Roberta's wrists. Her other hand, bound by the cuffs, had no choice but to follow the motion. "It's the prisoner's last wish." He let go. Roberta's arms fell heavily on her lap. "Personally, I'd urge you to make haste." Laura's eyes met Roberta's. She didn't look away. She didn't seem afraid. "Strawberry milkshake?" "Yes," said Roberta in a steady voice. "It's fine." Before preparing the beverages, Laura went to the bathroom. She couldn't hold it any longer. She took her time out of necessity rather than pleasure. She returned half an hour later. The man sipped his drink. He grinned in approval. "You didn't lie. It's tasty," he told Roberta. "Almost worth the wait." Laura ignored the comment and went back to the counter. She looked at the 2 couples that had been for over an hour in her coffee shop. They still had no hurry. They didn't notice the new arrivals nor that the woman was in cuffs. She looked at Roberta and her companion. It's not that waiters are more curious than the rest of people or more nosy. Simply, their job is better suited to discover other folks' details. Same as bartenders, they are often mistaken for transient psychiatrists. At the end of the day, we all need to get rid of what we carry inside. And if a friendly figure smiles while bringing us a warm drink, we do not hesitate to open up with them. The prisoner's last wish. Roberta drank normally, without hurry nor phlegm. That's what Laura thought, anyway. It was true that she didn't know her beyond the minimal and necessary client-provider interactions. Why was she in cuffs? That man didn't look like a cop, a detective, or a private investigator. He didn't even look like a bounty hunter. Should she call the police? As far as she knew, that guy could be a kidnapper or worse. She didn't want to get involved. No one would. Should she, though? Laura felt the man's gaze and couldn't prevent looking at him for a second before immediately turning away. Out of the corner of her eye, she saw how the man murmured something to Roberta. He then raised his hand, asking her to come over. Laura cursed. "The bill," said the man. Laura noticed his presence was as uncomfortable as Roberta's and her missing eye. Even her baby grew restless. One moment she mumbled and returned to the counter. She didn't want to do it. Honestly, the only thing she wished was that not only them but everyone still inside her coffee shop left, so she could close and go home. But what if it was her? Wouldn't she like that in a moment of need, someone helped her? She had to win some time first, so Laura went back to the table with a cookie tray. On the house. "I don't get it," said the man. "You didn't want to serve us and now you gift us snacks." Laura shrugged. She gulped discreetly. "You are right. The other couples are going to take long." The man squinted. "Are you saying these biscuits are your way to apologize?" Laura shrugged again. She tried to get away. "They are unnecessary," he said. "Now give me the bill." Laura nodded feebly and headed towards the counter, not before glimpsing at Roberta. "I tried. I'm sorry." The man, of course, noticed the look. He couldn't refrain this time. "What are the cookies made of?" Sardonically, he chuckled. "Poison?" "What?" The question had managed to shock Laura. She turned to the man. "Are you crazy?" He didn't answer, he just watched her. He let his smile do the judging. When Laura returned to the counter a few seconds later, he stood up, pulling Roberta by the cuffs, and followed her. He made a ruckus, forcing everyone to notice something was going on. It was impulsive, but he wanted to make Laura uncomfortable. What do you want? The bill. The man's tone was threatening now. He still smiled frigidly. Hurry up, will you? They stood still, as in a standoff. Before being able to do anything, someone called her attention. One of the couples was heading to the door. Two youngsters around their 20s. The girl was signaling her, telling her that they had left the money on the table. They were hurrying. In good time, thought Laura. They should have left much earlier, but they didn't until a situation they didn't want to get mixed up in arose. The couple got Roberta's attention too. The man barely glanced at them, focused on Laura. He opened his mouth, ready to keep on verbally assaulting her, but noticed Roberta was tracking the couple with her eye. No, he muttered. He turned. It was too late. They had just gotten through the door. What did you do? He hurried to one of the coffee shop's windows, right where the other couple was, dragging Roberta with him. Laura seized the opportunity to dial emergency. The phone was dead. She hung up, tried again. She never got a tone. She didn't see what happened outside. Perhaps that was good for her. The impression in her state could have been too harsh. The couple hadn't advanced more than 4 meters when they stopped, abruptly, as if frozen. They started to contort. Better said, something, an invisible force, contorted them, compressed them, moving and bending their bodies as if they were dolls. They didn't scream, or at least no one heard them. Every sound was stuck in their throats. Their jaws were tense as if they were biting with all their might. It was that force keeping their mouths shut while they played with them. The event didn't last long. The kids were made to curl up on the pavement, although instead of bending forwards, they had bent them backwards. Their joints acquired unnatural angles and tore their muscles and skin, painting their clothes crimson. Their elbows, knees, shoulders, and wrists were smashed, same as their fingers broken in various places. To lessen their ankles' damage, the force didn't bend but turned the couple's feet. Their heads too, leaving their necks like old and battered rags. The man turned to Roberta and asked out loud, "What did you do?" His words got drowned in the screams. The couple that was still inside the coffee shop had also seen everything. The woman in her 30s was covering her face, but that didn't diminish the potency of her cries. Her companion, an older man around 35, wasn't trying to calm her down. He himself was clearly affected, pale, and with his face distorted. It was Laura who, in vain, tried to calm them down, approaching after hanging up the useless phone. Nobody got away from the window. Nobody listened to Laura, no matter how loud she asked what was happening. Nervousness gave way to fear, and she felt worse when she saw the couple outside, lying down on the concrete. Suddenly curious, she rushed to the door. It was then that people reacted. That strange man, still dragging Roberta by the cuffs, cut her off. The couple silently shook their heads, warning her against venturing outside. "We are not leaving," said the man. "We can't, so we're going to stay in here and eat some tasty cookies, after all." His smile was completely gone. His stern look convinced Laura not to go against him. "What do you mean by that? What do you mean we can't go outside?" The question came from the other man. He stammered. He wasn't precisely a frequent customer, but Laura knew his name was Miles Ryerson. He and his wife, Clarissa, had told her a couple of months before that they'd just moved to the suburbs after 5 years of living in the city. "Didn't you see what happened?" The man spoke without looking at Miles as he walked back to his table in hopeless calm. "Do you want that to happen to you? What's going on?" Laura felt a sting in her bladder. She felt she needed to go to the bathroom again. The man sighed. He pressed his index and thumb against his eyes. Do you want to answer that question? He was talking to Roberta. She remained in silence. After a moment, the man continued. The point is, if we go out, the same thing that happened to them will happen to us. How can you be so sure? Miles had a frog in his throat. He was hugging Clarissa. She was shaking, sobbing. You do not have to believe me. You can't leave this place. My recommendation, though, is that you don't. The man took a small bite of a cookie. What's going on? Can someone please explain me? Her right leg hurt. The sciatic nerve. It bothered her every once in a while. It was because of the additional weight she carried. Miles told her, without too much detail, what he had seen. He met Laura's unbelieving eyes, so he limited himself to taking Clarissa to a nearby table, away from the window. He had no reason to lie. He didn't say it out loud because he didn't feel like justifying himself, let alone argue. This is ridiculous, said Laura and returned to the counter. She tried the phone. No dice. She walked to the door. Her resolve stopped there. She took her hands to her belly. This is ridiculous, she repeated, although with less conviction. It was 8 o'clock. Silence can be heavy, and it becomes insurmountable in less than friendly, hostile environments. Still, everybody dwelled in introspection as minutes went by. It was Roberta who spoke. Are we going to stay here for the rest of our lives? Shut up, said her captor at once. You lose your power with every passing second, said Roberta. I can ignore you more and more, and it's 10 o'clock. Can you imagine where we'll be at 11? At midnight? I told you to shut up. Yes, Roberta smiled. It was impossible, but Laura saw how her eyeless socket shone. So you said, but you're not in charge, not anymore. What's going on? You sound like a broken record, woman, said Roberta. Can't you ask anything else? Has the time you spent tending to this place robbed you of your wit and left you only with monotony? It's obvious you know more than you're letting on, said Miles. Laura is right. What's going on? We are all going to shut up, said the man. No, said Clarissa. She pointed at Roberta. She's right. You are not in charge. The man snorted. This is the point in the story where I tell you that this is exactly what it wants. Let's not turn against each other. Start talking then, said Miles. Yes, talk, said Roberta. Tell us everything you know. I know nobody will leave this place alive, said the man, angry and tired. You are just too stupid to accept it. Is that your peacemaking tone? Laura's voice was full of exquisite sarcasm. Well, look who's talking, answered the man. You don't even realize this is your fault. My fault? He had managed to shock her again. The man sighed, closed his eyes. If we're dying anyway, why not tell us everything you know? Miles tightened her so much in his embrace that Clarissa let out a slight moan. I find no flaws in his logic, Dari, said Roberta. Dari? What a lovely name, Dari, said Laura. The man kept ignoring them, his eyes closed. Miles stood up. Hey, he said, we asked you a question. He seems angry, said Roberta. Shut up, said the man. You also sound like a broken record. You're no fun. Roberta stood up too. Where do you think you're going? The man opened his eyes. Outside, answered Roberta laconically. The man laughed mockingly and in disbelief. Really? Do you know any reason why I should not? The man grunted, closed his eyes again. Roberta approached the couple. You are right, he knows more than he lets on. Weren't you on your way out? Go on then. Show us we can leave without fear, said the man. Roberta raised her hands. I will if you take this off, she said. She made the cuff's chain rattle. Why do you have those? Who is this man? Laura wasn't used to being so straightforward, but the situation was far from normal. She wanted answers and ignorance. She wished that everybody left so she could close the coffee shop and be on her way. She wanted Raoul. Where was he, the good for nothing? It didn't matter. She had never been able to trust him, not really. Are you interested in Dari? Roberto shrugged. He's just a fool who thinks he has authority. Or am I wrong? Why don't you correct me and tell us who you are? Silence. Miles walked in front of the man. Why can't we go out? Nobody is stopping you, though I would not recommend it. Don't get clever, buddy. What's out there? The man opened his eyes. Isn't it obvious? Death is out there, buddy. Why don't you tell us what you know? You're making it hard for us to trust you. Didn't you say we shouldn't turn against each other? They are very different things, opposition and trust, and I really care too little to be sincere with you. But it's true. You are already dead. You'll just make it harder on yourselves if you choose the path of conflict. You're a bastard, said Miles. We are already dead. And what about you? Do you have an escape plan? Why don't you count yourself amongst the doomed? Haven't you considered that it's just a figure of speech? Condescension betrayed the man's words, though he made no effort to hide it. Miles smiled in the same way someone that perceives an unpleasant odor does, to demonstrate disgust and thus hide the rage he harbored against the source of the fragrance. Get out of here, he said. His teeth chattered. Excuse me? Get out, or I'll throw you out. A pause. Shut up and go sit with your wife, the man said. No, you are not in charge. Get out. Slowly, the man stood up. Are you sure you will try to throw me out? It'd be better if you calm down. We all have to calm down, thought Laura. She didn't say it, of course. She didn't feel like doing it. She was tired and angry and scared and trusted nothing and no one. Miles lunged at the man, but despite his combative attitude, he led a sedentary life. It took the man no more than a couple of moves to subdue him. He now had him by the arm, putting so much pressure he was about to take it out of its socket. That's your man. Are you going to help him? Roberta didn't scream. All it took was a whisper in Clarissa's ear. She attacked the man, bumped into him. Both rolled on the floor for a couple of seconds before getting back to their feet. The rest of the battle happened fast as well. Even though the couple fought side by side, the man was much more experienced and was in better shape. With a slap, he incapacitated Clarissa. That made Miles fight harder, but he didn't achieve much. Moving as if he were dancing, the man flipped him and threw him against one of the tables. The blow made him see stars. Miles barely got back on his feet. Everything was spinning. Let it go. Stand down and go to your wife before this gets so out of hand that a tragedy occurs. Is that a threat, you bastard? Miles slurred his words. His faltering breath grew erratic, still expecting confrontation. He pounced on the man. He threw him again, but not against the table this time. The cartwheel led him straight into one of the enormous windows. He didn't reach the other side. Although the glass shattered into dozens of pieces, Miles was suspended in the air, upside down. It didn't take him long to realize he was lost. With only half his body out of the coffee shop's security, nothing prevented Miles from crying out. The pain seemed unbearable, and not just because of the deafening screams, but the way his eyes went out of focus. They were slow to fade, and in fact showed a lot of life before losing all their energy. It was as if they were squeezed, and even though nobody saw how that invisible force pulverized his spine and part of his internal organs, it was clear that the same fate awaited them. They all filled with renewed and potent dread. Clarissa also screamed and tried to aid his beloved. It was the man who wouldn't let her. He stopped her midway, and despite the punches, scratches, kicks, and elbows, he didn't let go. He dragged her to the counter. Help me, he said to Laura, but she was in shock and didn't respond. The man cursed. He slapped Clarissa again with enough strength to knock her out, and hurled her over to the other side of the counter. The man took some cloth and tied Clarissa's wrists to the furniture. He sat her, looking towards the back of the coffee shop. It would have been inconvenient to leave her on the other side, where the first thing she would have seen when she regained her senses was Miles, suspended in the air like some macabre hunting trophy. The man leaned on the counter and sighed. "What's going on?" Despite her low voice, everyone heard Laura's question. There was no answer. She felt her legs weaken, so she sat down. She was about to pass out, so she figured it would be better if she lied on the floor behind the counter. It wasn't the best of ideas, but she couldn't do anything else, considering the circumstances. Emotions knocked her out as soon as she dropped. She woke up near midnight. Her head was all vague memories of something she wasn't sure had or had not really happened. The first thing she did was touch her belly. Everything was in place, or so it seemed. Her crotch was cold. Her sphincter had betrayed her. She tried to get up. "I wouldn't be so quick to do that if I were you." The man was sitting beside her, also on the floor. "You could get dizzy again, fall again." "Did I fall?" "No, it was just a figure of speech. You had the presence of mind to gently lie down." "What has happened? What time is it? The window—" Instinct kicked in and she ended up moving too harshly whilst trying to rise. Dizziness came with nausea and she was about to throw up. "Calm down. The window is broken, but I think you already know that neither the glass nor the wood nor the concrete are what keep us safe in here." Laura took a pause. She took her hands to her eyes. She wanted to cry. "What's going on?" "Death has come to your little town, Sheriff," said the man with a tired smile. "What?" Laura was not in the mood for games, trivia, pop culture references. "What the hell are you talking about?" She looked at the man with contempt. "Forget it. Just forget it." Laura looked at Clarissa. "What about her?" The man sighed. "She couldn't take it." "What do you mean?" A pause. "She died. Her heart couldn't take it." A new torrent of emotion hit Laura. Her throat closed. Her stomach shrunk. Her heart jumped in her bosom. She remembered she was wet. She covered her sex with both hands. "Calm down," said the man. "Shut up," said Laura. "Shut up! How can you say it like that, so relaxed?" She remembered how unpleasant that guy was. "Go to—" Before continuing, she remembered something else. "Where's Roberta?" "It sits over there near the floor, waiting for dawn." "What for?" "To leave." Arduously, Laura got to her feet. There she was, as if looking at her, a subtle smile on her lips, evident even in the gloom. Laura avoided the goosebumps by focusing on something else. She turned to the man. "Why are the lights out?" "They are not," he answered. Laura looked up. The bulbs were opaque but functional. "But how?" "It's it," said the man. "It's playing a little." A pause. "It was right. It regains its strength with every second." "Its strength? I really don't understand. Who is she? What's going on?" "We're past the time of explanations," said Roberta suddenly. "We are all going to remain quiet in this cozy little place until it's time to leave. All right?" "Shut up, Dari," interrupted Roberta. The man stood up. "You are not in charge," he said. "Not yet. You may be right, but I will make you suffer if you decide that, after all, wiggling your tongue appeals to you now." "Really? And when do you plan to make me suffer? Before or after you kill me?" Roberta beamed. "Before and after," she said. "Promises, promises," the man sighed. "In any case, you are so mean. One wouldn't expect a fairy to behave like that." Roberta frowned. "I told you to—" "No," interrupted the man. "In general, it's thought that fairies are benevolent, that they grant wishes." He smiled. "And they do, but only when they want to have fun. They eat dreams and exploit the certainty of dupes." "Dari," Roberta stood up. I am not playing around. Oh, but you are. For you, everything is a game. Remember that I know you better than anyone. You cannot fool me. You don't know me. You just think you do. You've always thought you're one step ahead, but your stupid spy games are ridiculous. I'd pity you if I didn't find you amusing. Are you sure? If I'm so small, so pathetic, how come those handcuffs are on your wrists? Luck, Dari, and a rotten one at that. Since you stumbled into my path, you welcome bad fortune. Of course, you're too stupid to understand it. What are you talking about? Laura's voice was broken. Her head hurt. Damn, Dari, you are saved by the fact that this woman is thicker than you. Roberta cackled. Her eyeless socket shone once more. Shut up, said Laura. She hadn't planned it. It had gotten out automatically, without her really thinking about it. Roberta sat down and made no further sound. Interesting, said the man. Very interesting. Roberta looked at him with renewed aversion but remained silent. He looked at Laura. He offered her a chair and prompted her to sit down. He cleared his throat. My name is Darren Clisby, and I am a spy, he said. A spy? Like the interesting fellows that come here every other day to ask if I've managed to identify which of my clients are communists? Laura still wondered if they didn't believe she herself was the menace. Darren smiled. Not precisely, but the idea is the same. Part of an organization that doesn't hunt KGB operatives down, but really bad things. What things? Creatures. Creatures that do possess the power of altering our reality and give us a very, very bad time. Like her? Darren nodded. A pause. All right. Very well. This all sounds rather... I know, said Darren. It's a fantasy tale, incredible, worthy of a book or a television show. I would not believe it if I weren't telling it. Is that why you prefer to remain quiet? Laura looked at the broken window. Miles' body wasn't there. Where is he? Darren quickly caught her meaning. You really don't want to know. He stood silent for a moment. You don't believe me, at least not completely. However, you do know this is something you cannot explain. Something out of the ordinary. Something weird is going on, no doubt. Laura was fixed on the window. She asked again, Why did you remain quiet? Darren rubbed his eyes. On the one hand, yes, because my story would have gotten me nothing but laughter and mockery. He sighed. On the other one, it wasn't worth my while explaining who I am, what that is, and the particulars of our identities. You said we were going to die. Laura looked at him. You said we were stupid. Darren didn't look away. I won't apologize. Why are you here? Why come to my coffee shop with such a dangerous woman instead of going straight to jail or something? Because that was the prisoner's wish, said Darren. Fairies are not easy to catch. They are elusive, deceitful. However, they are governed by a set of rules, and if you manage to make them play your game, you have a chance. Laura made a pause. I still don't understand, she said, shaking her head. What are these rules? Every once in a while, a fairy sponsors a person. It reveals its nature and makes a pact with them. It offers to fulfill their most fervent desire and even seems to be benign when it says it doesn't require payment or anything in return. Like a genie in a bottle. Darren laughed. Something like that. But fairies don't live entrapped in common objects, and they are neither obliged to accommodate the whims of the owners of such containers. No, fairies are much more vicious. They are the whimsical ones. They sow chaos for fun. If they are so evil, how come other tales are about goodwill and happiness? Who writes an autobiography as if they were the villain? Have fairies themselves written those tales, all of them? This belief betrayed Laura again. Not only her voice, but her entire body showed total reluctance to keep up the charade. Darren shrugged. I knew this was pointless. He sighed. I thought... Whatever. Go on, said Laura, as inviting as possible. Fairies write stories for humans. She also shrugged. What else do they do? You haven't said a thing about the rules they have. Fairies are invisible most of the time, he said. He waited a little for Laura to ask him to proceed. He knew he was saying things that were hard to accept and needed to know he was being paid attention to. He knew she didn't believe him, but hoped he could convince her enough. It's not that they lack corporeal form, they're just not interested in us seeing them. And even when we do, they only show what they want. Roberta, for instance, has two or more eyes, yet you've always seen one. Isn't that right? Two or more? Laura felt a chill, her bladder twinged. She put her hand on her belly. In any case, I assure you it's got more than one. It just doesn't want to show it. Laura took her other hand to her face. She had seen that eyeless socket shine, not once but twice, hadn't she? You've been asking what's going on all night, continued Darren. Well, to put it simply, we are being stalked by a group of fairies. They wait for us outside your coffee shop, invisible but present, ready to get rid of us if we dare venture out. Why haven't they barged in? They can't. At least not yet. Why? Darren sighed. I told you I'm a spy. I've been watching the fairies for a while. Not just me, but a whole team. We've seen how they grant wishes. We've seen that they're social creatures and that they sometimes act as a unit. Their methods can even be simple, trivial. This one time, for a godson who asked to be rich, a handful of them, invisible, lifted a couple of cases with money from the bank. Easy, no problem. They then let the authorities know about the robbery and the culprit's address. They twist desires to have fun with the outcome. That's the way they are. Of course, the more complex the plan is, the more full of irony and sarcasm the schemes are, the better. It's almost a competition to see who makes the joke that gets more laughs. They are creatures without worries or demur, dedicated only to the satisfaction of their perverse sense of humor. However, they are forced to fulfill the wish they are asked for to the letter. Most people are ambiguous when it comes to wishing. We were not. When Roberta approached me to offer sponsorship, I accepted. I had the line memorized. I told it my wish was for it to become my prisoner, to dissect it and better understand its species in an effort to combat it. I also wished it didn't put up a fight, and that no other fairy was to intervene in an attempt to save it. It couldn't be helped in any way. It was trapped, you see. We had beaten it in its own game because it had to fulfill my wish completely. Of course, I said it in such a way that it was impossible to dodge or misinterpret. But fairies are not dumb. Quite the opposite. And they've created safeguards for times when they find themselves in unfavorable situations, clauses in their contracts that give them the edge. We already knew this, so it was logical that it asked me to grant it one last wish, one last joy before surrendering to me forever. It asked me to enjoy its favorite drink at its favorite coffee shop, a strawberry milkshake here at your establishment. What I did not count on, and in retrospect should have imagined, was that my words still carried weight, and even more so, that they could be used against me. When we arrived, I told you we'd leave before any of the other couples that were already here. And we didn't. That allowed the other fairies to intervene. To a certain degree at last. Laura analyzed the man's story a couple of times. She looked at Roberta, who still was sitting next to the broken window. That doesn't explain why those fairies haven't come in, or why she hasn't gone. If you breach this contract you talk about, what prevents her from declaring it void and moving on? Darren smiled. I have no idea, he said. Your viewpoint is valid, but I have no answers. Something that goes beyond me is happening here. Maybe it just wants to torture me. That's what it said, right? That it tortured me before and after my death. Or maybe we still have a fighting chance. Which one? You told it to shut up. And it did. Without hesitation. I don't know how, but it seems you have some authority over it. Laura remembered something. She asked, why are they waiting for dawn? Roberta herself said your power over her dwindled. And it's true. It's another condition of these creatures. Their beliefs are closely related to natural phenomena. In this case, daybreak signifies the end of any contract, for better or worse. The more we approach that moment, the less we are bound. Silence arose uncomfortable between them. Laura decided to take the initiative. So, what's next? I'm not sure. Why don't you try to talk to it? Laura unwillingly approached Roberta. She spoke in a low voice, stammering. What's going on? Roberta smiled. Haven't you made new friends who have told you what you want to know? I heard a very thorough explanation as to what's going on. Or am I wrong? Don't answer any of its questions, said Darren. Remember what I said. It's dangerous. Ooh, dangerous. Scary. Roberta trembled, showing her cuffs and making the chain clink. With that, it may have seemed she wanted Laura to think she was harmless, but what she did was establish herself as a threatening figure. Laura gulped. Do you think he told the truth? Who? Dari? Roberta scratched her chin, as if considering her answer. I'll tell you what I think, or rather what I don't think. You didn't question what he said, and I assume you agree that it was I who made the lights go dark. Is that the truth or a lie? Since you didn't even check that the woman tithe on the other side of the counter is really dead, I don't think you care about the truth. All you wish is to get out of here. Am I right? Never, ever, even if it tries to force you physically, explicitly tell it what you wish, intervened Darren. Laura stood still. In effect, she had fully believed Clarissa was dead. Why? Her pulse accelerated and she felt her knees weaken again. She sat at the table next to Roberta's, who took advantage of the opportunity and kept talking. It doesn't matter if you don't say it. I know you wish to leave. It's obvious even for Derry. However, I do know some things he doesn't. After all, I know you a bit more, having been your customer for several months. I know you wish Raoul was here, right? You wouldn't trust him most days, but just now his presence could be comforting, couldn't it? Who's Raoul? Or maybe not Raoul, continued Roberta, not minding Darren. Maybe someone else. Is there someone else, my dear? Do you have a special somebody? A pause. The police? Maybe you believe that they are trustworthy? What? But No, you did want to call them, yes? Not right away, not as soon as we came into your coffee shop, but sometime in the night. Why don't you try again? How? But there is no contact with the outside world. It took care of that. They took care of that, said Darren. Is that so? Have you picked up the phone and dialed, Dari? I wouldn't trust him, my dear. Maybe he lies. Or maybe he's too dumb and doesn't even know how to use the device. Laura took a hand to her face. A headache was starting. She took the other one to her belly. The baby hadn't moved in a while. She remembered she wanted to go to the bathroom. Dari didn't tell you what happened to the body by the window, did he? What would you think if I told you it was him who took it from there to satisfy his most basal needs? Same as some alpinists that get caught in a blizzard and have to resort to cannibalism to survive. Laura's stomach growled. Well, well, said Roberta, giggling. The truth is, I only wanted to shock you a little, not encourage your weird cravings. Let's just say they are what remains of your hormonal emotional instability. Her smile widened. The giggles turned into full-fledged peals of laughter. What did it mean by hormonal instability? Laura looked at Darren. She didn't answer. She pressed her belly harder. She was about to cry. She was very sensitive. What did it mean? What do you think she meant? Laura lowered her other hand. She hugged herself, holding her baby as best she could. Your hands, said Darren. What about them? Your hands, he repeated. What? What about them? Laura looked downwards. She couldn't even see them. Her belly covered them. What? Why are you holding them like that? Like what? What do you mean? She was sweating, her cheeks burning. What do you mean? Roberta stopped laughing. You think you're pregnant? What do you mean I think? I am pregnant. Isn't it obvious? You really think you are, said Darren. But don't you see your hands? They are holding nothing. What? You are crazy. He is, said Roberta. I don't know what he pretends, but you must remember he's a liar, Lau. Goosebumps. Her bladder twinged again. Her heart broke. That's why it shut up when you commanded. You shut up, Dari. you and it share some kind of connection. It has created an illusion, but you're not pregnant. It's using you like a. It was the chain that choked his voice. Roberta had moved too quickly, and she was too strong. No, said Laura, but no one heard her. She couldn't say anything else nor move towards Darren and Roberta. Paralyzed, she could only see that smug grin on that face that was missing an eye. That socket shone one more time. No, she repeated, her voice muffled and her arms hanging listlessly at her sides. Roberta didn't take long. Darren had tried to free himself, throwing desperate elbows, but the fairy had squeezed with such force that she fractured his larynx. Not even for a moment could he liberate some pressure from his neck. The red marks left by the chain ended up being worse than the ones on her skin. The cuffs hadn't hurt her wrists too much. When she finished, Roberta didn't drop Darren's body. She began to drag it with ease towards the window. What are you doing? Where are you going? There was no answer. Damn it, stop! Roberta did. Where are you taking him? Silence. Laura growled. She yelled, Let him go! Without ceremony, Roberta let Darren's body fall. Why don't you answer my questions? Tell me! Begrudgingly, Roberta said, You have to ask for an answer in an explicit manner. Her teeth chattered. Well then, answer this. How is it that you could get rid of Darren? Didn't your contract end until dawn? Roberta turned to face Laura. Her frown was dreadful. You were right. He himself voided the contract, speaking out of turn. It would serve you well to learn from his experience. Then tell me, continued Laura, controlling her emotions as best she could, why didn't you leave hours ago? Just as he thought, I wanted to torture him before killing him. I'll have to settle with doing it now. You will do no such thing. Roberta smiled. Do you really think you can force me? For how long? What do you mean? Will our connection end at dawn? Roberta didn't answer. She hadn't heard an order. Laura sighed. She looked at her body. Am I pregnant? No. Why? Since when? A knot in her throat. Tears wanted to come out. You were my ace in the hole, said Roberta. Since when, you ask? I think you know. If only you gave it some thought, if you analyzed your miserable life, you'd know. Laura closed her eyes. An ace in the hole. Roberta snorted. She didn't have to, but decided to keep on talking. She wanted to show her how thick she really was. I was going to use you to bail on my contract with Derry. Fortunately, it wasn't necessary. 7 months. Why? Did you know it all along? That you need an ace in the hole? I'm a fairy, not God. Roberta laughed. No, I did it because it was amusing. Now that it's not, I'm leaving. I'll be back for Darius's body when... Shut up and sit down. You're not going anywhere. Roberta obliged. You wanted to return after dawn, I guess. You won't. You can't keep me here forever. Roberta was nonchalantly examining her nails. They had grown. Answer me. If I wish for something, must you grant it? Roberta paused for as long as she could. Yes. Great. I wish that you die right here and right now. I'm afraid it doesn't work like that, my dear. How does it work then? There was no answer. Tell me all your rules. Tell me all I need to know about you, your race, your deals with mankind, everything. Are you sure? It could take a long, long time. Laura had to play a game she didn't know, with rules she might never understand. She sat down too. She was spent. She felt like peeing. Why am I still seeing this? She caressed her belly, or at least she thought she did. You won't soon enough. Do you see it too? Roberta shrugged. Laura covered her eyes with one hand. I don't know how you do it. I don't know why something like you has so much power. She looked at her. She stood up. It's unfair, don't you think? But no more. My wish is that power. I wish that I am the fairy and you are the human, and that we changed right here and now. More than growling, Roberta barked. She got to her feet. She paced like a caged lion. She was, to put it mildly, cross. She pounced on Laura, her hand extended, pointed at her face. Her back suffered the most because Roberta's full weight fell over her midsection. It happened fast. Two fingers, index and thumb, with those terrible overgrown nails invaded her eye socket. Without even registering the pain, Laura began to scream. The fairy's other hand suffocated the sound, pressing hard on her mouth. Everything went black. Though her other eye was well, Laura couldn't see. She didn't notice how Roberta poked around her own socket, the one that shined impossibly. She struggled without spirit, especially because the fairy had surprised her and didn't move purposefully until she could see again, until Roberta put her hand back on her face. She was changed, although not too much. She now had two eyes, albeit of different color. One of them looked mistreated, as if it had had a stroke. It looked unpleasant. Roberta crawled backwards and leaned on a chair. Pain turned into a burning feeling, and Laura blinked a couple of times. She looked down. It was strange. She saw her clear-cut real body, but there was another one on top, a phantasmagoric silhouette that looked like a pregnant woman's belly. The illusion couldn't fool her anymore. "Get up," she said, but Roberta didn't. Before she could repeat the order, she turned to the window. They were there. Their feral look was the only peculiar thing about them. Long hair, unkempt teeth, long, dirty nails. She would have never imagined fairies looked like that. They didn't even have wings. "You're waiting for the last human, aren't you?" She grabbed Roberta by the hair and dragged her. She was the weak one now, small, a shadow of her former self. Laura was revolted, even as she remembered she had been like that before. She shook her head. She picked Roberta up. "No," she said. "Wait, won't you grant me a wish?" The last Laura covered her mouth. She was tired of her voice. She didn't want to be a godmother, especially not hers. She threw her through the broken window. She thought that would fill her with satisfaction, but she couldn't stare for long as those creatures finished her. They fell on her at once like hyenas, bloodthirsty and mindless. She ended up covering her ears too. After a while, she walked to the door. She had waited a long time, but they hadn't gone. They waited for her. She was one of them now. Laura felt fear, nausea. She felt like going to the bathroom, so she did. She took her time. They were still there when she returned. Laura sat on the floor, hogged her legs, rocked herself to sleep. The first rays of sun woke her. She got up. Nothing ached. In fact, she was full of vigor. She inhaled deeply. Those things were gone. She walked out of the coffee shop without looking back. What she did look at were her hands, her legs, her belly. Laura was not pregnant. I'll see you when I see you.